Hello dear students, welcome back to this online tutoring alternative English class with me, your tutor, Esther Zobio. So in our previous video class, we already started the novel Lord of the Flies by William Golding. So today we will be continuing our lesson from where we left. In the previous class, we have already discussed about the author William Golding, about the novel and a short summary of chapter 1. So today we will begin the summary from chapter 2. So without wasting any more time, let's just dive into our lesson. In chapter 2, Ralph introduces the signal fire. He announces that a signal fire should be maintained to aid in the rescue. At mention of creating such a fire at the top of the mountain, the children become excited and rush off, led by Jack, to see if they can complete such a task, to really prove they can make it on their own. They gathered a huge pile of wood on the top of the mountain. Jack suggested using Piggy's specks to make the fire. Ralph grabs the specks against Piggy's wheel to light the fire with it, and soon it was blazing. Piggy comments that the effort was wasted because the fire produced little smoke. Jack started arguing with him. Piggy tells Jack that he has the conch, thus he should not be interrupted, but Jack says the conch doesn't count on the top of the mountain and tells him to shut up. Jack is starting to dislike the rules of the conch. The group of hunters are divided up to take shifts keeping the fire going. It is then noticed that the sparks from the now dead fire have ignited half the forest below the mountain. Piggy speaks out against the group's immaturity. He tells them that they ought to be more responsible. They don't even know how many kids are on the island. Jack argues against him. Piggy points to the inferno and asks where the boy with the birthmark is. Nobody knows he has been killed by the fire, by the lack of responsibilities, the rampant adventure, and maybe something else that is present in the boys. He is the first to die, and the boys can only stare at the fire, marveling with horror at what have done. Chapter 3 begins many days, possibly weeks, after the fire on the mountain. Jack is hunting for pigs and has become good at tracking them, but has not killed one as yet. He comes back to the beach where Ralph and Simon are trying to build a hut. 2 rickety huts have already been constructed, and this last one is not turning out so well. Ralph complains to Jack about how the kids don't help. They are bathing or eating fruit in the forest instead. This seems to be a trend with every project they try to accomplish. A project is proposed at the meeting and they work hard for a little while but never see it through the completion. Jack and Ralph have a small argument about whether building huts is more important than hunting. This is the first of many disputes they will have. The subject of the beastie comes up again. Many of the little ones are afraid of it, frightened of it, which is why they are building huts. Jack has a sudden insight as to where the pigs hide during the day. Ralph continues to badger him about the fact that keeping up the signal fire is more important than hunting, but Jack doesn't seem to think that way. The 2 boys are beginning to dislike each other. Simon wanders into the jungle, helps the little ones pick fruit, and then wanders off further, finding a clearing. There is a thick mat of creepers that grows here. He climbs under them where it is cool and dark and stays there until nightfall. Chapter 4. Roger and Maurice, 2 members from the choir group, are walking through the group of little ones, kicking over the things they've made in the sand. They split off and Roger hides behind a palm tree watching a little lamb playing by the water. He begins throwing stones at the little lamb, but he aims to miss because the taboos of the old world are still with them. Jack comes up behind Roger and asks him to come watch as he puts on a mask of painted camouflage in order to hunt pigs better. As Jack smears the clay on his face, the mask is a thing on its own, behind which Jack hid, liberated from shame and self-consciousness. The mask allows Jack to not worry about rescue, and what he knows is right. Behind he can do whatever he likes. Later, Ralph and the rest of the boys are swimming in the bathing pool and a ship is spotted on the horizon. Ralph looks to the top of the mountain and notices the signal fire has gone out. Running up to the peak of the mountain with the others following, Ralph reaches the top and finds the fire already dead, the watchers absent from the duty. The chance to be rescued is lost. Jack and a crowd of hunters move up to the peak carrying a dead pig. The hunters are excited about their first kill and begin to explain it all to Ralph. None of them cared that the fire had gone out. It was not important to them. All they can talk about is hunt and the kill. When Ralph tells them a ship passed by the island, they all fall silent. Jack tries to make excuses, and during Piggy's protest and lecturing, Jack punches him and he falls to the ground. His specs go flying and one part of the lens breaks. Jack apologizes about the fire, but Ralph does not accept. The fire is relit and the pig is roasted. Jack hands out portions of meat to all the boys except Piggy. Simon gives his portion to Piggy and Jack can't stand it. The tension is broken and the story of the hunt is reenacted by the boys. Maurice pretends to be a pig while the rest dance and chant around him. This is the first time the dance is performed. Ralph tells them all that he is calling an assembly even though it is dark out. Chapter 5. An assembly is called and they all gathered. Ralph talks about how they start projects and never finish them. No one is abiding by the rule very strictly. They don't gather water in coconuts anymore, nor do they use the designated places as bathroom. And of course, there is a matter about the fire. He tells them that we ought to die before we let the fire out. He tells the hunters that the fire is more important than a pig. Furthermore, he explains that things are breaking up. I don't understand why. We began well. We were happy and then people started getting frightened. They're all frightened of the beast. And the children have been talking about it, a large animal living on the island. The beast in reality is something that resides in all of them, a sort of dangerous evil that must be withheld. Ralph, from the start, has tried to hold it back by laying down rules and organizing society. Nonetheless, none of the kids yet realize this except Simon, and the beast is manifested in their minds as an animal lurking on the island. Jack argues that he has been everywhere on the island and has never seen a beast. Piggy gets up and makes a very important speech in which he states that there isn't a beast, at least, not with claws and all that. Also, there isn't no fear either, unless we get frightened of people. A little ant comes forward and talks of how he had been dreaming about fighting the creepers and saw something horrid in the forest. It turns out that the horrid thing was Simon, who had been returning from the clearing he likes to be at. Another little ant comes forward and explains another type of beast, saying the beast comes from the water. Again, this is debated. Then Simon takes the conch and says something very important. He says that maybe there is a beast. What I mean is, maybe it's only us. Simon understands what the beast really is, but he is mocked at and he stops explaining. The debate continues and turns toward talk of the rules. Jack doesn't know why Ralph has the right to make rules. He points out that Ralph cannot hunt, nor can he sing. Ralph counters that he was chosen and that is reason enough. More arguing ensues and the world, that understandable and lawful world, was slipping away. Jack turns against Piggy as well. Bullocks to the rules. We're strong. We hunt. If there's a beast, we'll hunt it down. We'll beat and beat and beat. Jack doesn't like the rules and the beast. Within him is beginning to expose itself little by little. The assembly breaks up and the hunters do their dance once again. The boys are drifting apart into two distinct groups, those who follow Ralph's ideas and those who follow Jack. At the close of the of the chapter, Ralph, Simon, and Piggy are sitting on the assembly platform, listening the cries of the little ones' nightmare. Now, chapter 6. Two fighter planes are engaged in a nighttime battle over the island. More evidence that the world is at war. One of them is shot down and the pilot bails out of and opens his parachute. But he is already dead. The dead man floats to the island, only to be caught on the rocks of the mountain. There it stays for some days, slowly rotting presently, though the twins Semneric are on fire duty and have fallen asleep. The twins wake up, relight the fire, and see the beast from air. Breathing in and out, they run to tell Ralph as the sun is rising and assembly is called. They all believed that they are now in terrible danger. Jack calls for volunteers to help him to go to the top of the mountain to kill the beast. A debate ensues that it is determined that the beast does not leave tracks and moves by swinging through the treetops, which is why Jack has never seen traces of it. It is decided that a party of hunters plus Ralph and Simon will go to hunt the beast. Piggy is left at the beach with the little ones. They will first check the only place on the island that no one has been to, Castle Rock. If the beast is not there, then they will check the mountain and relight the fire. They trek to the castle and discover that nothing is there. Jack exclaims that the rock would make a great fort, and he and his hunters proceed to push a boulder into the sea. Ralph breaks up the fun and they start the journey to the mountain. Chapter 7. As they make their way to the mountain, they stop to eat and rest, and Ralph thinks about how dirty and scraggly they all look. He yearns to have his hair cut and take a proper bath, revealing again his character and longing to be civilized again. They start off and Jack finds traces of a pig and they decided to hunt it. A boar is found and Ralph wounds him with his spear. He is delighted that he made the only strike on the animal. The boar gets away and the hunters begin to dance again. But this time it is little different. Robert started playing the part of the pig and some boys slightly got out of hand and some of the fake blows to the pig are landing hard. Even Ralph, who previously shunned the dance and chanting, feels that. So here, the first time we see Ralph having trouble suppressing his beast in him. They continue to the mountain and Simon is sent through the forest to tell Piggy and the others that the hunting party will not be back before night. Night falls as they reach the base of the mountain and the boys argue about whether or not they should wait until morning to scale it. Jack goes to the top and comes back down, reporting that he saw something bellowing on the top of the mountain. They all climb to the summit and see the beast. Instead of fighting it or finding out that it is only a dead man on a parachute, they flee, mistaking those figures as a giant beast in the dark. Chapter 8. The detail of the beast is related to Piggy and the boys. They must decide what to do. Jack calls an assembly by blowing the conch. He tells the group that the beast is real. They have seen it. Ralph called the hunters cowards and Jack accuses Ralph of being a coward himself. Jack asks the assembly if any of them think Ralph should not be chief and no one raises their hand. Jack feels that survival is a game to be played and he is fed up with the rules that Ralph deals. He invites others to come join him and runs off to the forest. He left not to be under Ralph's leadership anymore. Simon steps forward to propose that they climb the mountain. Nobody agreed. Instead, Piggy decided that the signal fire should be moved to the beach and the kids start building a fire on the beach. The fire is lit and as the crowd gathers, it is noticeably smaller. Most of the Biggins have left to go play with Jack's group. The only Biggins left are Ralph, Piggy, and Semneric and Simon. Simon wanders off to the mat of creepers while Jack gathers a group of boys in the forest to teach them how to hunt. They decide that Jack will be chief. They will forget the beast and they will try to take more big guns away from Ralph. They begin to track a pig and it leads them to Simon's clearing. A few pigs are laying around. The group decides to attack a sow. A sow means a female pig. And her piglets. The piglets escape, but the sow is brutally killed, and Jack decides to offer the pig's head as a gift to the beast. He orders Roger to sharpen a stick at both ends. One end is jamming in the rocky earth, and the other is wrapped with the head of the sow. Simon climbs from under the creepers and is confronted with the head. Later, Jack and his gang raid Ralph's encampment. They steal a burning log for their own fire, and Jack invites all the boys to come join his tribe at the feast they're about to have at night. As the savage leaves, Ralph comments about how he wishes he could have fun too, but still the fire is more important to him. Nonetheless, this importance of the fire and of rescue are drifting away from Ralph, and he must be constantly reminded of it by Piggy. A storm is building above the island and thunder promises rain. Back at the clearing, Simon is having a discussion with the pig's head. This discussion is probably mostly in Simon's head, but Golding uses this interview in a strange way to unveil the theme of the novel. Golding now refers to the fly-covered pig's head as the Lord of the Flies. Though Simon may have known that the beast was really inside the kids, it is now confirmed that Simon knows for sure. The beast warns him not to tell anyone the truth, otherwise he will be killed, and Simon fell down unconscious. In chapter 9, we see Simon regaining his consciousness and heads for the mountain. He sees the rotting airman with the parachute and realizes that they have mistaken the figure of a dead man on a parachute as the beast. Simon makes his way to the beach to tell the others about it. Piggy and Ralph, on the other hand, have decided to go to the pig roast to have a party with Jack and his party, just to see what is going on and what is happening. All of the other boys are already there except Simon. They all fall silent and two outcasts approach, Piggy and Ralph. They are both given portions of meat as Jack begins a speech. He asks who will join the tribe, and Ralph interrupts, trying to persuade the boys to help him keep the fire going. The crowd of boys instead agreed to join Jack, who promises to give them meat and keep them safe from the beast. The storm breaks and rain comes down with lightning and thunder. Ralph is asking them what they're going to do without shelter, and Jack orders them to begin their dance. As they chant around playing the pig, Piggy and Ralph found themselves eager to take place in this demented but partly secure society. The boys in the dance are armed with clubs and spits and are getting out of hand again with this game. A figure is crawling out of the forest. It was Simon, but they didn't notice that it was Simon. Mistaken as the beast by Jack and the boys, Simon is beaten to death. The group disbands for shelter from the storm. On top of the mountain, wind fills the parachute of the airman and lifts him away from the island as the storm subsides and the tide moves in and out. Simon's body is washed away into the sea. Chapter 10. The next morning, the only boys still in Ralph's confidence are Piggy and Semneric. The twins are in the forest collecting firewood while Ralph and Piggy discuss about Simon's murder and what they are going to do next. Piggy tries to make excuses for the boys by claiming it as an accident, but Ralph doesn't agree to it. Back at the lagoon, Ralph and the rest are agonizing over trying to keep the fire going. Again, Ralph must constantly be reminded by Piggy that the fire is something overwhelmingly good. Ralph tells the protesting twins that anyone can play at hunting, anyone can get us meat, anyone can buy into the irresponsible and harmful desires within them. But it is not easy to hold them at bay. They decided to leave the fire for the night and retire to the rickety shelters. During the night, they awake to noises outside and were afraid, thinking the beast has come for them. But it is only Jack and his tribe searching to steal fire. Not finding a lit fire, they charge into the shelter, and in the violent fight that ensues, Piggy's specs are stolen. They have now been stripped of the ability to make fire, and the only symbol of society and order that is left to them is the conch. Chapter 11. The next morning, the 4 plundered and bruised boys try to ignite any smoldering ashes left in the fire, but it is dead. In desperation, Ralph calls an assembly. Only the 4 boys plus some little ones attend. Ralph speculates that maybe if they try to comb their hair and look decent, they could go to Jack to ask for the specs. After all, we aren't savages, really, and being rescued isn't a game. Piggy agrees to this idea and talks about Simon's murder and the death of the little one in the first fire. What can he do more than he already has? I'll tell him what's what. You let me carry the conch, Ralph. I'll show him the one thing he hasn't got. And as they get ready, Sam and Eric are afraid to go because Jack will be painted. But still then they set off with Ralph and the twins carrying spears and Piggy the conch, being led because he cannot see without his specs. They reach Castle Rock and Ralph steps out into the neck of land leading to it with Piggy just behind and the twins after him. Roger, the guard, orders them to halt and Ralph blows the conch. He tells the savages that he is calling an assembly. Jack emerges from the forest behind him with his hunters and the carcass of a pig. Ralph demands the specs to be returned and the tribe laughs at him. Ralph and Jack fight each other briefly using spears. Jack gets between Ralph and the rock and orders the twins' capture. Some kids come out to tie Sam and Eric, and Ralph has had enough. Jack and Ralph charge each other and begin fighting again. Piggy stands up and yells for them to stop and listen to him. Surprisingly, the crowd is silent and Piggy, holding the conch, asks, which is better, to have rules and agree or to hunt and kill? Which is better, law and rescue or hunting and breaking things up? During this speech, the tribe bearing spears has formed along the far side of the rock bridge and intending to charge. A great yell goes up and Roger heaves on the lever. A huge boulder totters and crashes onto the bridge. Ralph ducks out of the way, but the blind Piggy could not move. As the boulder strikes him, the conch explodes into 1,000 white fragments. Piggy falls 40 feet to his death on the rock below. Jack feels no sympathy and warns Ralph that that's what he will get. The tribe charges Ralph and he is running. Crashing through the forest, the pursuit does not last long and Jack orders the crowd back to the fort. Ralph is free for the time being. The last chapter. Night falls and Ralph stays close to Castle Rock. Sam and Eric, now savages, have been stationed as guards. Ralph crosses the bridge and scales the tower to talk to them. They tell Ralph that Jack and the tribe are going to hunt him tomorrow. The plan is that the kids will make a line stretching from one shore of the island to the other and they will slowly advance until they find him. When Ralph asks what they will do when he is caught, the twins reply, Roger has sharpened at both ends, but Ralph does not attach meaning to this. He tells Sam and Eric that he plans to hide in the thicket near Castle Rock, thinking that Jack will not look so close to the fort. Ralph wakes up the next morning and the twins have been forced to confess where Ralph is hiding. The tribe tries to roll another boulder from the castle to land in Ralph's thicket, but they just barely miss him. A savage tries to crawl through the branches to see if Ralph is still there and gets the business end of the spear. They set the thicket on fire and Ralph runs into the forest as the line of savages spreads out to begin the sweep of the island. And at last, Ralph reaches the beach And before him, he saw a navy captain and all the ship. People have come to rescue him. And when Ralph asked how did they come to the island, they replied that by seeing the island on fire and by seeing the signal smoke on the island, they have come to rescue them. So with that, we come to the end of the novel. And with that, we come to the end of our lesson for today. Thank you so much for your time here. Thank you.